Welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So Jupiter's Legacy is an original Netflix series based upon the graphic novel created by Mark Miller. And so the general story here is that we have these group of superheroes. They're called the Union. So they're kind of like the Justice League. And within that, we have some main characters. We have the Utopian, who's basically Superman. We have Lady Liberty, who is a combination of Supergirl and Wonder Woman. And then we also have Brainwave, who's basically Professor X, who can also fly. And there's many other characters in this, and also some supervillains as well. And the big thing here is that they have children. And so there is a legacy there, and there's a lot of drama that is involved with this. So it's more of a drama, I would say, than an actual superhero movie. So it's more dramatic first, and then superhero second. So getting into the things that I did enjoy about the series is first and foremost the story itself. Now, I think all of us have seen a lot of comic book movies and series, but Jupiter's Legacy does things a little bit different. Because here, instead of having just one main story, it's actually two stories going in parallel. We have our main story of the heroes and their children, the legacy part in the modern times. But then we also have the origin story of these Union superheroes back in 1929. And this really follows closely to the graphic novel because in the graphic novel, these stories are actually separate volumes. So it's Jupiter Chronicles, which is the origin, and then the Jupiter's Legacy in the modern times. And I really like that duality because first and foremost, it really shows you what's going on now. But since the series also shows you the origin in a very extended way, you really have a lot of character development. And at least for me, I enjoyed the origin story part back in 1929 more than I did the modern superhero and their kids. And so that's really something that I found different. And I would say more unique than most superhero movies because a lot of superhero movies or series, they definitely have the origin story, but they don't spend an entire series going through that. Where in this case, it does that, plus it has the other modern story as well. And so that's like the first thing that I enjoyed about the series. And then the second thing that I really liked is the overall action. So whenever there is action and battles, I think it looks great. There is a lot of CG effects on there. And overall, I think it looks good. And there's a lot of weight to all the action, the punching, the special powers that's going on. And even though it's not to the same levels of something like The Boys on Amazon, and especially to the Disney productions of all their comic book properties, I think it's really good overall. And it helps sell the message of them being these superheroes battling out. And then the final thing that I enjoyed about this series is just the overall acting. So Josh Duhamel, he plays the lead character of Sheldon, or the Utopian, and he's basically the most powerful character. Like I said, he's like the Superman of the series, and he has a lot of things that he has to do from an emotional and acting level, especially when you go back to the origin story part. And then another actor that I really enjoyed about this is Brainwave, or in this case, the actor's name is Bob Daniels, if I'm not mistaken, and he plays a character, Walter, and he has a very important role in this series. And we also have Sheldon's wife, Lady Liberty, or Grace, played by Leslie Bibbs, and she also plays an important role because these are like the main core characters. But then we have other characters, specifically George, who is Skyfox, and we also have some other characters as well, part of the original Union characters. I can't remember all their names, but I really feel their acting, the origin story characters, it was the best, out of the entire series. That's why I enjoyed that story so much, because the story, I think, was more interesting, and the acting involved was definitely at a higher level versus the modern era. In the modern era, it's more about, I would say, the kids in terms of like where they actually want the story to be centered. And in this case, I don't think it's anything to do with the acting. I just think it's the way it's written. The children of these superheroes, specifically the children of the Utopian Lady Liberty, we have Brandon, who's basically always living in the shadow of his father, and Chloe, who hates her father. And that's about the extent of the character development for the children. Now, there are other children in here, and they play really slight roles, but I would say at least the way they're written and they're acted, there's not really anything memorable there. Protect your online privacy and keep data brokers from selling your personal information by using Delete Me, the #1 privacy information remover service since 2010. Sign up today and get 20% off your first order. For more information, check out the affiliate link in the description area below. Now, getting into the things that I did not like about the series Even though I did like the story and characters overall, I really felt like the modern story with the children of these superheroes that definitely could have been fleshed out. As I stated a little bit earlier, I don't think it's mainly because of the acting, it's mainly because of how they're written. There's not a lot of depth to the children characters, more or less like a teen angst type movie or series. That's really what it's about. And at many points, I was kind of bored of these children of these superheroes, but maybe that was actually how it was told in the comic book series as well, because season 1 is more about the origin of these superheroes and kind of a little bit of where they're at and the conflict that they're having with the children versus more being about the children. And as I understand it, as you get further into this Jupiter Legacy series, then it kind of changes and it's more about the kids. And so hopefully that's just a symptom of it being season 1 versus later seasons where maybe these characters can be fleshed out a lot more and become more interesting. So that is the first thing. And then the second thing is, even though I did enjoy the action that was here in the series, there really wasn't as much as I would expect. There's really only one big main villain, and his name is like Black Star. And he's very powerful and stuff, but he's really the only main villain that they battle, at least for the majority of this series. And so hopefully, as we get into future seasons, once again, they'll probably stay away from the whole origin story because they spent a whole season telling it. And now it's more can be about the superhero action element because now we already know the characters and we've grown to really be interested in them, at least the original origin characters. And so that is it for my thoughts on Jupiter's Legacy. I think overall this really is a great series, especially the origin story part. I really enjoyed it. And I was pleasantly surprised because seeing so many of these comic book movies and shows, I was expecting it was going to be more of the same. But I was surprised, specifically as I stated a little bit earlier, the whole origin story series. I found that very interesting. And hopefully they could expand upon more about where these powers came from, why is it called Jupiter's Legacy, and so forth. Because there's definitely another aspect to this world that we don't see, which is outside of the Earth realm of having these superheroes. There's a interstellar part of it as well. So that is it on my review of Jupiter's Legacy. If you did have any thoughts on this, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And if you are interested in more of my action movie or series reviews, I do have a playlist. I'll leave that in the description area as well. So as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And if you're a creative geek like me, and you want to get exclusive access to more content that I don't put out here publicly on my YouTube channel, then join my Gold Content Creators Group, where you're going to get content like this and more for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators Group.